Hmm. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good people, fellow humans. My name is Edward Bevilacqua. This is Department of Career Services. And we are here to help our students and other interested people on their journey through this life. Right. This is Saturday. We call this G.school, Saturday and Sunday. So during the week, we focus on 3 legs of the proverbial table that we stack all of our achievements and accomplishments on, our lifetime achievements and accomplishments, we put them on this metaphorical table, 4-legged table. And the key about having a 4-legged table is having 4 solid legs, right? 4 solid legs. If you have a leg that is weak or poorly attached, you put too much weight there, boom. So we help our students and interested people build a table that has 4 solid legs. And your question is what? What are the legs? Okay, so one leg is physical. Fitness and health. You have to be in good shape. You have to take care of your body so your body can move your brain around, so you can do things. You have an idea, you can actually do it. Mental, ABC, always A, always B, B, C, learning, always be learning. And the learning curve is going ever steeper. It's not flattening out. It's not like it was 500 years ago where knowledge was moving kind of slowly, very slowly compared to today. For example, I just saw this morning at CES, the big thing at CES was glasses once again. Glasses once again. So you don't have to do this or this to access AI. You can do it through here plus eye movements and audio commands. That's the big thing. That's the big thing at CES this year. That was I guess the big of the big things. That was the biggest thing. Okay, so fitness and health, physical, 1. Number 2 is mental. 3 is emotional. You've got to control your emotions. You've got to control your emotions. Or as we say it this way, if you can't control your emotions, don't worry, somebody else will, and they'll probably take you out of the game. So I had an interesting thing in my class on Thursday night. All young people, a small class, which is good, young people, which is also good. Because on the one hand, I get an insight into what people in their early 20s that are in graduate school are thinking, how they perceive the world. And B, I have the opportunity to let them have a glimpse of how people 2 generations older than them see the world. So hopefully help them as it's helping me. And so this is the first class we had to make an agreement that we would be nice to one another and fair and good people. And I remember thinking, that doesn't really jive with the world, right? The world doesn't care about our feelings. The world is indifferent to how I feel. So to say, world, you need to be nicer. Okay, that's great. The problem is, if somebody's pretending to be that way, or somebody who's not that way, they're on the outside, when everybody hears nice, this person does the Genghis Khan move and bammo. Everybody gets wiped out because he's not nice. which led the Romans to have a saying, si pacem para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war. Right. Because if you're strong here and you're ready here, if you're tough, if you're disciplined here, these people aren't going to take what you have. They're going to go to the weak. That's the same thing. My hunch would be if wolves can kill the easy prey or the hard prey, my hunch is they're going to go after the easy prey. So making agreements with people that we're all going to be nice to one another is good, but the harsh realities of the world is that should be backed by discipline and toughness. We're going to agree to put our 6 shooters on the table and not use them, or we're going to hang them over there. We're going to give them to the sheriff. So we're all going to agree we're not going to use them, but we can. And you better be nice to me because I will. If you abuse our trust, I'm not going to stamp my feet and say, hey, you promised to be nice to me. I'll be like, we had an agreement. You broke it. Okay. Anyway. So ABC, always be learning. Emotions, control your emotions. And number 4 is spiritual. What is the point? Why are we here? I spent 20 some minutes on Zipeladon watching a YouTube video about this philosophy. With this philosophy, you don't need religion. And then for 25 minutes, it went through talking about the problems of religion. And there's a lot of valid points. A lot of, it didn't actually happen that way. Cavemen didn't sit around and say, let's create a religion to explain why there's lightning. They didn't do that. They probably sat around saying, ugh. They probably sat around playing rock, right? Because they didn't have paper or scissors at that time. They hadn't been invented. So the idea was, anyway, this is G.school, and we focus on the spiritual side. Because if you believe we have a soul that continues after death, then that starts bringing in other questions like, well, what happens? Where did it come from? Where's it going? Are we just going to return to energy and have nothing? Is there going to be something? Is this whole life futile? Are we nihilists in the end? Or is there a purpose? So you get to choose what you want to believe. And me, somebody who has a law degree, that kind of looks at the evidence, it's kind of has the ability to analyze and figure things out, use logic. It seems that the weight of the evidence is that we have a soul that continues after death. And that Jesus was who he said he was because not of what he said, but because of the resurrection. The Shroud of Turin. And the Shroud of Turin is compelling objective evidence, and the weight of the evidence, compelling evidence that it is real. Okay, anyway, let's get back to where we started. So this is G.school. This is for people who want to focus on how do I move forward in this life. And I would say the answer contained in, as described in here, and proud to announce here. Why aren't those the same? No, this one has yellow. No, this one has yellow and it says volume 2. This says volume 1. What? You've got, okay, so based upon volume 1, idea is Jesus came down to talk about transformation. To help, just go to John chapter 3, transformation, to teach people the kingdom of heaven has arrived. Believe in the good news. Repent and believe in the good news. The kingdom of heaven is in your presence. It's in your midst. It is within you. Just follow my commandments. Love God, love one another, make disciples. Do those 3 things, and you can become one with the Father and I. And the Father is Spirit. So that's what G.school is all about, to help people on their journey through this life. Now, caveat, if you are already saved, if you believe that all you need to do is profess by your word, by your mouth, that Jesus is your Lord, Savior, and personal Messiah, or Lord, Messiah, you're the Savior, Messiah, and your personal Lord, and that's all you have to do, great, good, excellent, super. This isn't for you, but you are certainly welcome to be here. But I would suggest to be here as a student, not as a critic, but as the person that's in the arena, whose face is marred by sweat and blood, okay? Who knows the defeats. Okay. I would suggest you approach it that way. Instead of I already know everything, it would be like, let me see I just want to see what they think. I already know everything. My soul is saved. I already know where I'm going to be. The instant after my death, I'm going to be sitting there with Jesus, and we're going to be saying, yeah, bro, what up, cool. I already know that. If that's you, okay, good, super. I'm not going to try to say congratulations. You are saved. My thing is more on the end of, if Jesus says to do A and I want to get B, I'm going to do A. That's it. That's me. What Jesus said. Hence the title of the book. What did Jesus actually say? Right. And it's surprising, to me at least, how many people don't know what Jesus actually said. What they know is little sound bites of what Paul said. And Paul isn't quoting Jesus. Paul is, anyway, let's move on. So, in addition to everything else, this is day 6 of week 2 in our neuroscience-oriented approach to success. But we're going to kind of put that off to the side because this is G.school. Only to say, though, today's TED Talk is Jill Bolte Taylor, Harvard scientist she had a stroke. And as a scientist, she was able to observe what was going on in her stroke. Spent a lot of time, 10 years in rehab. She's back. Well, she's been back for a long time. And she had a real insight, a stroke of insight, because as the aneurysm, blood vessel burst on the left side of her head, as neurons were being destroyed because of the blood just getting gunked up, right? As that was happening and this side of her brain was shutting off, she was experiencing this side of her brain, her right hemisphere. And at that point, that's all of the feelings and emotions and everything that come in through our senses. And she had a sense of being connected to everything. And she would describe that the pixels of her hand on the wall, the pixels of her hand merged with the pixels of the wall. And it was hard to separate the difference between she and the wall. And then her brain would kick back in. and say, hey, you got a problem. You got to call somebody, you got to do something. And so over a period of 4 hours, until she was able to call, get an ambulance there, get in the hospital, etc., she, to the best of her ability, was able to recall and understand what was going on. And as she says, there was a period of excitement of, wow, how cool, a brain scientist get to observe my own brain while I'm having a stroke. Our purpose for watching it, again, is to answer the two questions: who am I and why do I behave the way I do from a neuroscience perspective? Again, to get an understanding of how the brain works. And these are the two hemispheres of the brain. And one of the interesting things, she brings out a brain, a real brain, puts on gloves, brings out a brain, the spinal cord is hanging from it, and then says there's two complete hemispheres. And you do that, and the brain separates, but it's connected at the bottom by something called the corpus callosum, which she says has about 300 million fibers that connect what's going on here to what's going on there. But it's not a brain like we see it. It's two hemispheres that are connected at the bottom. And at the bottom is where the reticular activating system and the spinal cord connect in. Right. Pretty cool. So we get to actually see it and have a scientist talk to us about a little bit about how the brain works. And she breaks it down to, here's what's going on in the left hemisphere, here's what's going on in the right hemisphere. And somehow these two things give us a picture of what we call reality. And then we go back to Wednesday, Mark Dawes saying our self-identity is only made up of our self-beliefs, and all of those things are contained in this brain. Pretty cool. Pretty cool, if you ask me. Okay, let's quickly, we got a couple minutes left. Advice from an 80-year-old. Advice from an 80-year-old. Whistle. And that's our theme of today. Whistle. Always look on the bright side of life. So said Brian in The Life of Brian. Okay, cool. Seth Godin, I think we got time to put that one in. Got 2 minutes. Room temperature. Left alone, a cup of coffee will gradually cool until it reaches room temperature. Stable systems regress to the mean. Things level out on their way to average, which maintains the stability of the system. The same pressures are put on any individual in our culture. Sooner or later, unless you push back, you'll end up at room temperature. As I write this, the built-in grammar tool has made suggestions to every single sentence, pushing to make it sound less like me and more like normal. That's in parentheses. Okay, so with that, we're going to say, let's see, we got a little bit more than a minute left. I'm fighting on this thing called the Sabbath, because it doesn't make sense to me that a God would say, if you don't, you can do anything else, but the one thing I want you to do is rest on Saturday. Not rest one day, rest on Saturday. And then Jesus comes along and says, I am the new covenant, and the old stuff you don't really need to do. This is what the Sabbath keepers say. Well, we don't have to keep all of them, because some of them, the ones we don't keep, were already fulfilled in Jesus. But this one we do need to keep. And it just doesn't make sense. I can't slice it any way to say, you're not a good person. God is going to look down on you if you don't take off Saturday. If you don't take off Saturday. Now, if there was a day that around the whole world was Saturday, and the whole world was going to do it, okay, but Saturday here is not Saturday there. if you go from sunset to sunset, it's not. So to have a religion based upon one commandment that isn't really even a major commandment, I would think thou shalt not commit adultery is way more important than don't work on Saturday. Thou shalt not steal. To me, that is more important than that. But to have a religion based upon one commandment, or to identify, let's say it that way. Let's say, okay, I'm sorry, it's not based on one commandment. However, they identify around the commandment. That's who we are. We are Sabbath keepers. You are not. We are good. You are not good because you don't keep the Sabbath. You don't do what God said. Well, we don't do all of the 600 laws because we don't need to, because Jesus fulfilled those. But this is one he didn't, despite the fact that Jesus said, what about the Sabbath? In 2 occasions, at least 2 occasions, he did things and was accused of doing things on the Sabbath. And he didn't say, oh, you know what, you're right. Sorry, can't do that. Right? What did he say? He did it. He did the miracle. He did the thing. And then he said, the Sabbath was made for man. So if you say all of these other things, we don't have to follow those because they were fulfilled in Jesus. And once again, what did Jesus actually say? It seemed like the Sabbath was like a suggestion. And it was more like a day. But it was actually more like every day. Love God with all your heart, mind, and soul every day. Don't keep holy one day. Keep holy every day, all day. So maybe that's the interesting question I'll talk to one of the Sabbath keepers about was, it seems to me, brother, that Jesus was saying keep holy all of the time, not just on the Sabbath. And if we're Sabbath keepers, the way it's designed by the Sabbath keepers, this is the day to keep holy. Are we just supposed to keep holy on the Sabbath, or follow Jesus' example to keep holy every day? Interesting question. But the good news is that my appreciation for the Sabbath keepers is I'm thinking about it, pondering it, dissecting it. Otherwise, I wouldn't think about it at all. So that's a compliment and an appreciation to the Sabbath keeper people, the dogmatic people, the finger wagging people of you're not as good as me because I keep the Sabbath, you don't. I am a God-fearing person because I keep the Sabbath. You are not going to be saved because you don't. So I sincerely appreciate thinking about it. I just can't make sense of it. There's no way I can attach it to, yes, that's what I need to do. Anyway, we'll take that out in editing, right? Okay. So if you didn't see it live, you're not going to see that little goofiness. Okay, with that, and cut.